I am really happy to run this session. It's a session I've been thinking about for quite a long time. So just to give you a brief understanding what's going on here, my name is Yaron Engler. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I run a community which is called On Being Men, which is a space for us men to explore how to find more clarity, confidence, and courage to live the life that we truly want and not to chase the life that we think that we're supposed to live. And it's a very honest and loving community of men amongst men, and we are challenging each other to grow and to deepen our experience as humans. Tonight, I invited my friend Tiger, who I met in the lovely days of COVID-19 in the app, which is called Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Yeah. And it was fascinating. Any room that I wave, anybody here was on Clubhouse. Every room that I entered with Tiger, it was just the way I, sorry, Tiger, I'm going to speak in a way that I speak, but it was a bit of like a spiritual orgasm every time I heard Tiger speaks. And it was really, really beautiful. And I expect the same thing to happen today. It's probably we're going to have a little chat, but once Tiger starts, he will go on a tangent and it will go until the end of the session. And it's fine because it's going to be fucking beautiful. So I might be wrong, but let's see what happens. Tiger, what do you want to happen tonight, my friend?
Oh, I'm just excited to be here and see what happens, see what comes out of my mouth, see what kind of questions there are. And, I don't expect anything less than profound discoveries. And I'm so excited to connect in a space that's just men. Most of my work and most of my audience is female. And I'm always kind of subtly craving some bro time. And so I count this as my bro time. So I'm excited for that.
Cool. We're going to take off the shirt soon, do some Tarzan moves and all this shit. No, we're not. Don't worry, people. So I invite everybody to close your eyes for a second, if you're comfortable with that. If not, that's fine. Close your eyes and bring yourself to full presence 1 second. Feel your body, whatever that means to you right now. And notice if you carry any tension anywhere in your body. Just pay attention to that tension and say, hello, tension. Thank you for showing me where I hold tension. Because we are all sometimes holding tension in our bodies. And with the busyness of life, we don't always notice those beautiful signs that tell us to chillax a little bit. Just take a moment to really notice and connect with your body. And check in with your breath without changing anything. Just notice, is my breath deep and smooth, or is it quite shallow and stuck? And no judgment, just notice. And if you want to change, change. If you're happy with what is, enjoy. And if you feel that it's challenging to stay still, and that's fine as well. Just notice, oof, hello, nervousness, anxiousness, whatever it is, it's all good. And pay attention now if there is any tension in your tongue, in your jaw. Where I like to think about it is with every exhale, see if you can let gravity take over a little bit more. Loosen it up. Check your eyes and your eyebrows if there is any tension there. Your fingers. And with your next inhale, feel as if by putting more air inside your body, you are creating, there is like a stretch of every cell in your skin, in your skull, in your hands, it's just expanding a little bit. All the cells get a little bit space in between themselves. And as you exhale, just feel the relaxation and the drop and gravity taking over again. And in that space where you are right now, you came here for an event called Turning Your Pain into Real Power. From this place where you are connected a little bit more with your body, what is the pain that you carry? What's the texture of it? What's the story? Where is it in your body? And really allow yourself to feel that pain. We have the tendency to avoid that as men often. We will talk a lot, we will be busy, busy, busy. Just allow yourself right now to be in that pain with an open heart. There's a lot of power in being in the pain and accepting it instead of avoiding. And what's the texture of the power that you're looking for? The word power can trigger us in different ways. What is your take on the word power? And in the ideal world, if it's a positive power, what is it for you? If you can convert truly your pain into power, what would that look like? How would it feel like? How would you think? How would you feel? What would you do with that power? And you might notice that the answer is not that clear. So very gently right now and very, very slowly through your mouth, do a very slow exhale. You squeeze all the oxygen out of your body. Keep the body completely relaxed. Exhale fully, exhale fully, exhale fully, exhale fully. Squeeze your belly. Really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then just let go. Boom. You don't need to take a deep breath. Your body knows to take air back. So just allow yourself to come back to a normal breath. Note if anything changed. And we're going to do it again. Very slow exhale through the lips. Squeeze your belly and your back as if you're taking a wet cloth and you're really squeezing all the juice out of it. So the center of your body should be squeezed, but the body is completely relaxed. And let go. Poof. Your body will know to take air back in. You don't need to use any effort. There's a lot of wisdom in us. And one last time, another very slow exhale through the mouth. Squeeze the belly like a wet cloth. Squeeze, 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 and exhale, squeeze and exhale. A little bit more. When we get to the edge of it and you can't exhale anymore, then we'll stop and keep going on the squeeze a little bit. And now let go and take a full deep breath in. Fill your body with oxygen completely, nice, juicy air, and then hold it at the top. Don't exhale. Deep, nice breath and hold it at the top. If you feel a bit dizzy, that's fine. Hold the breath, feel yourself full of oxygen, and relax everything as you're holding your breath. Relax your shoulder, your eyes, your tongue, your jaw. You can smile if you want. It's not that serious. We all die at the end, guaranteed, so don't worry too much about anything. And when you're ready, you can let go of the air and open your eyes. Tiger, you heard the questions. Where do you want to go from here?
You know, I am so deeply touched right now by these questions. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with my flavor of sharing, there's a couple of things I want to say before I run my mouth here. First of all, I'm not in any big hurry to say anything. So I'm going to take my time. And also, it's important to understand that I can only speak about my direct experience. It's the only thing I can see. The beauty of this is that in being human, we're all traveling the same sort of path, just taking different roads. And so, as much as it might sound like I'm talking about you or other people, I'm really just talking about myself here. And lastly, this whole thing that I do in sharing and speaking and writing, it's not serious at all. And it's not serious because I know the impossibility of what I'm trying to do, which is articulate something that can't actually be spoken. I'm seeing something and I'm attempting to use silly words to point to it. And sometimes I fail miserably, and depending on your conditioning, the words I might use seem inappropriate, out of context. And so let's not cling too much to what I'm saying. Let's just, if anything, be open to see a beauty. All these questions that are asked are for me asking the same question. And it's a question that's been asked since the beginning of time, and it's the question of who am I? Which is also like saying, what the hell's going on? Who is this one that I am having this human experience? And the beauty in that is the more we gain a deeper understanding of what we are, the more clearly we can see ourselves. It has this magical quality of resolving our inner conflict. It's much like as we go through our human journey, that which is causing the pain, the emotional disturbance, is a misunderstanding, is a confusion. We're not seeing ourselves clearly. We're not seeing other people clearly. And we're not seeing life clearly. And this whole journey of discovery, that which brings a deeper wellness, is simply having more clarity about what's really going on. Just like when you encounter an argument, what you ultimately find out is there's a misunderstanding. Or if you find yourself wrapped in some sort of self judgment or inadequacy, there's something you're not seeing. And the comedy in this is that this, in a way, is what's been spoken about for thousands of years, which essentially is see the truth, see what's really going on. And in seeing that, it will extend to you some degree of greater freedom. And so the question is, are we willing to see what's going on? And let me tell you why we might not be so willing. And this is something that we learn to grow into, but in the beginning, we're not so concerned about what's true. We're not concerned about what's real. What we're concerned about is what we want. And we have a long list of things that we think we want that take a major priority in our lives. And these wants only blind us to the reality of what's happening right now. And as we grow and as we mature, we start to realize that these things that we want aren't the most important thing. It reminds me of being in high school and thinking that, oh, well, what I really want is to be liked by other people. Oh, what I really want is to be part of the in crowd. I want the popular kids to like me, right? These are the life and death situations of a teenager. And then as you grow and you mature, you realize, well, that's not nearly as important as I thought it was. And that creates some space to connect with something that's a little bit more genuine and a little bit more authentic. But I think it's wise to understand that there has been this play of conditioning where we have been convinced that we want something that we only think we want. And underneath that long list of things, there's something more sincere that you want. And what I'm attempting to illustrate is that what you're really looking for is the truth. What you're really looking for is to see yourself more clearly. I would go so far as to say that this touches on the fundamental purpose of this human adventure. Of course, the conditioning that we've been brought up in says the point of the adventure is to get somewhere in the future. The point of the adventure is to craft some sort of image of yourself that will finally be accepted by the world around you. The point of this adventure is to get your parents' respect. And all of this misses the real opportunity. The point of this adventure is to see the truth of what you are. And if you've been paying attention, this is what life has been trying to wake you up to this whole time. But again, as we're blinded by what we think we want, we're not so keen to receive the message. This is why I love those questions that we asked. They're not questions about how do I control the world. They're not questions, how can I get people to do what I want? They're questions of a sincere heart that says, please help me understand what's going on. Which says, I'm willing to see something. I'm willing to admit that I don't know. And this is the birthing ground of real power.
Tiger,
And in the
can I just
spirit of that, yeah,
I
go
want
ahead.
to inject one little thing that feels important. I don't want to stop you. I want you to continue. I just want to invite, because it's a space of men only, take it or leave it. And as this Tiger said, if what I say trigger, it comes from my heart to your heart. As men, we have the tendency to try to understand things here. And I just want to invite everybody to listen to Tiger more from the heart, not to try to understand what he's saying, but to feel that. Let it flush you. Whatever you take from what I just said, then take. Sorry, it felt important to say, Tiger.
That was perfect timing because I was transitioning. So that's great. The title, Turn Your Pain into Real Power. The question for me, well, what the fuck is real power? And this is so monumentally important to clarify because, as with everything, we have our idea of something and then there's the reality of it. We have our fantasy of what love is, and then there's the reality of it. Likewise, we have our fantasy of power. And many men spend their whole life chasing the fantasy. In the same way, we can chase our fantasies about love and ultimately going nowhere. And so, allow me to just share a pointer, a pointer towards what might be real power. There's this incredible strength in our capacity to be present. To truly be present in such a way that no matter what's going on around us, no matter what people are saying, no matter if the project is working out or not, can you be present and attentive to what's being asked of you? Or is there this tendency to always run away? And this running away takes many different forms. And so often it takes the form of blame. It takes the form of criticism, of deflecting, of defending yourself. But for me, there's this power in realizing I don't need to be afraid of what's happening. I don't need to be afraid of what somebody's saying. I can just be here and hold space for it all. Not only what's happening in the world or in my relationships, but also what's happening inside of myself. Because is this not also one of the great difficulties? When we encounter the rawness of our human experience, And something within us says, I have to get the fuck away from this. Something shows itself on the inside, and we immediately seek for ways to numb it, to avoid it. And without looking for more excuses to judge ourselves, can we see the lack of power there? And what's underneath that lack of power is very simply a fear. I'm afraid of what's showing. Just like when you're with someone you love, be it a family member or a woman, and they start going off in some crazy manner. Maybe they're accusing you of something. Maybe they're misunderstanding you. Maybe they're super emotional. In a very understandable way, we can get scared of that. And we want to find some form of running away. And again, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I'm saying we want to run because we are misunderstanding what's happening. Whether we interpret it as a personal attack, whether we interpret it as in the way of where we think we're going, whatever the misunderstanding, it leads us to not being able to be present. And you know what? Damn it. What I see in my experience is that there is a very high call for men to be present. Not only in our relationships, but also in the work that we do, in the ways that we show up to serve. And not only that, but in the way that we grow as individuals. Can we be present for that? And to be present in all of these areas means a willingness to face what we're afraid of, a willingness to go into that which used to terrify us and be willing to look at it with brand new eyes. Be willing to say, okay, it's time to really look at you. Okay, it's time to see what exists on the inside of me that is so scared to come out. This is the real power in being able to show up in this life. Again, not only for others, but also for myself. And the doorway into that power forever will be the pain that you carry, which is quite contradictory, where we assume pain is in the way. And the reason this happens is because we have a fantasy of what power is. We've been sold an idea of what it is to be powerful, and that pain seems to be the complete opposite of the image we're trying to live up to. And because the pain threatens the image we're chasing, we do everything we can to avoid the pain. And I hope to illustrate in some important manner that this actually takes you in the opposite direction you're trying to go. And how is pain the doorway? And in this limited time that I have with you, when really we could sit together for a month and explore these things, emotional pain is an alarm signal within your human function that is trying to tell you that you're not seeing something clearly. It's saying that something's out of alignment in the way that you're seeing yourself, others, in life. This works in a very similar way as physical pain. If you hit your hand with a hammer, that pain is an immediate signal that tries to get your attention, that says, come back to the present moment. Something's out of alignment and it needs your attention. You'll notice that if you encounter physical pain, it interrupts your process. And it does so intentionally because there's something important happening that pertains to wellness. And so the pain says, stop what you're doing, come back and deal with this. And when you deal with it, it can heal and you can continue on in wellness. The pain is a very supportive mechanism. It's literally there to help you. And the same with emotional pain. If there's emotional pain, it's literally there to help you. And so, in the same way that we embrace physical pain as an alarm that's helping us, there's an invitation to transform our relationship in how we see emotional pain. That it's not there to get in your way. It's not there to mess up your life. It's actually there to help you step into a greater degree of freedom and power. It's trying to help you see what's happening more clearly, in the way that if you're experiencing emotional pain about past circumstance, that pain is simply saying you're not seeing the past clearly. You're seeing it in a way that is robbing you of your inherent birthright. This is obvious to see when you look at emotional pain from the past, where it's not the circumstance that hurts, it's the story you've been carrying with you about the circumstance. It's the meaning you've created, and that meaning in some way is proclaiming that you're not enough, that you're unworthy. This means you're unlovable, and on and on and on. You're carrying around a self-perception about what you are that is profoundly untrue. And if you continue to carry around that self-narrative, it's going to persist in separating you from what you crave, which is to show up in a way that reflects the truth of what you are. For how can you show up as the truth of what you are if you are so determined to see yourself as less than, as not enough, as undeserving? And so, of course, that shit's going to hurt because it doesn't serve. And so, if we want to uncover why it is we're not able to show up, why it is we're not able to be present, why it is we want to run away, the answer will be found in your pain. And it's not uncommon, especially as men, to consciously or unconsciously deny the existence of such pain. I'm fine, no problem, yada, yada, yada. Everything's fine. When deep down, there's a hurt. There's a felt sense of rejection. There's an interpretation that you've been carrying with you that sees yourself as not enough. And we cannot unravel these misunderstandings if we're not willing to look at the misunderstanding. And for me, what greater power is there than a power that says, I don't need to pretend to be something I'm not. That's real power. And of course, the world's illusion of power is you pretending to be something you're not, which is pretending to not be hurt when you are, pretending to not be scared when you are, pretending to not feel vulnerable when you do. Is that power? To pretend? To pretend to be something that you're not? Or is real power a power that says, I don't need to pretend? I can be what I am because what I am is enough. So let's pause there. And I just invite you to ask yourself, where am I pretending in an effort to avoid the pain I'm carrying? And let's just see what comes up for you. And then, if appropriate, we can ask some more questions and we can take this in whatever direction we end up going.
I want to share one more thing that I really loved what you just shared. And in the case of men, you said, where do we pretend to not have the pain? Where do we pretend to not have those things? The same question is relevant for a lot of pain. Where do you pretend that you don't have the power? It's kind of the flip side of that, that a lot of us have power in us, but we're tuning that down. That's a source of a lot of problems as well. So we need to look at both sides.
Yeah, we deny ourselves that power because we know it's going to expose us. It's going to put us in situations of responsibility.
I love the sentence, the pain is the doorway to my power. It resonated with the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. There's all sorts of words that say the same thing. But describing it as a doorway, I think for me was quite powerful, because we all go through doorways. It made it quite tangible. You know, I'm quite guilty of being in my head a lot, trying to figure all this shit out. I think I know where my pain is. I can feel some of it, and some of it I don't know that it's there. But to now see it as a doorway gives me the ability to knock on that door and go through it if I dare. Yeah, it's quite a powerful image to be able to see it as a tangible thing rather than abstract thought.
Do you see what happens there where nothing really changed, but you changed how you saw it? And in changing how you saw it, there's an openness that emerges where it's like, oh, I don't need to fight against this. Oh, this isn't attacking me. Oh, this isn't in my way. These are massive shifts. We can go our whole lives with the assumption that the sincerity of your pain is somehow against you, and create a battle that exhausts you your entire life, missing out on this simple simplicity of a doorway.
Earlier on when you were talking, and as you were talking then, okay, I can see the door, and more doors. As you open one door, another will be in front of you. And the paradox is, I'm going to make an excuse for why I can't get through a door. But what, again, it's a rhetorical question, is how do I find the key that fits that door to unlock it?
Mm.
And what does that key look, feel, smell, taste like? Where do I find it?
It tastes like vulnerability and it smells like a big dose of self-compassion. And what I mean in saying that is your willingness to get in touch with the rawness, the visceralness of the pain, rather than keeping a distance and just being intellectual about it and thinking about it. Can you actually meet it? Right? We don't have to break through it. We don't even have to get through it. The question is, can I meet that part of myself that I've abandoned, that I've shamed, that I've proclaimed was unworthy of love? Can I finally meet it? It's like meeting the little boy inside of you that's terrified. The one that's been locked away that said, you can't come out and play anymore because life is serious. Can I actually meet you and then also see you with compassion and understand that, of course, you're hurting? Of course you are. Look at what you've been through. Look at the misunderstanding. Look at what you've believed about this. Of course you're hurting. Come here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not seeing you. I'm sorry for thinking that there was something more important than you. Will you forgive me? That will begin to turn the key. And then this little one inside of you will then use its voice to tell you what's actually going on. And that's when the door opens. When you can have a real, heartfelt, honest conversation with that part about yourself and see what's really going on. And then to meet that part of yourself with a completely different energy than you're used to, which is an energy of self-forgiveness, self-compassion, and an open heart that says, help me not do that anymore. Help me not reject you anymore. Can we come back together and live this life in a way that doesn't discard the reality of your experience?
Yeah, I guess it's unpicking that lock, isn't it? Just latch by latch, doing the work.
Yeah, moment by moment. And you know, you're gonna have moments where you see something deeply authentic and it can be beautiful, but by no means does that mean the work is done.
No, I've been there.
Yeah, it starts a process. It starts an unfolding, and that unfolding is like an opportunity you have for the rest of your life to re-nurture that relationship.
Mm.
And your journey of re-nurturing that relationship will gently release back to you the power that you separated from yourself. So again, it's not like we have one session here and then all of a sudden you step into the power. It's like, oh, okay, this is for the rest of my life.
Yeah. We're 4 years in.
He already knows that he's fucked. Basically, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm a lost
Yeah.
cause.
We all
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Just feels important to say, I think, that I like the word gateway and the emotions. Something that I've learned through my journey is the power of the physical pain into the emotional pain, which leads to the next door. I think I noticed that as a man, I'll speak for myself, I spend a lot of time here thinking, trying to sort out what's going on for me here. But if I stop for a second, like even now, right now, I'm noticing I have a lot of pressure in my chest right now. There's a lot of tension in my chest. So instead of ignoring that, I can spend some time, okay, hello, what's that about? And allowing the physical pain instead of avoiding that as well and just moving on and thinking about the next thing I need to do, just allow myself to spend time with that. It can literally, in my case, a lot of times it can really trigger the emotional pain and it can lead to crying and so on. I've been on tables, in sessions that I've done some body work where my back especially was touched, and I would start laughing uncontrollably, like really without control, and I didn't want to laugh, but there was so much emotion, as well as it's for me, it's either real laugh or deep pain, emotional, like sadness, that I can really cry through the touch from the back. So this is just another recommendation also to spend time, because for some of us, maybe I think the idea of connecting with emotional pain is like, what the fuck does that exactly mean? But pain in the body, we can understand. So really to spend some time with, like, okay, hello body, what's going on with me? Where do I hold tension? Where do I hold pain? And not to try to understand it, but to allow it and let it unfold is a good practice that I found.
And I guess what I want to ask is, yeah, what's your pain? I guess I'm curious about that. What was the sort of the moment of transformation for you?
It's an everyday transformation for me, where I get to encounter different angles of the pain I've experienced as it whether it gets triggered or reminded or comes back to visit, as it relates to what I might call the beginning of this. God, there's so many beginnings though. And that's the thing, it's a cycle. It's an in breath and an out breath that takes place every year and every day and every decade. But I remember just distinctly the pain of growing up in a home where it felt like I wasn't allowed to be me. There was this expectation for me to be more like my sister, or be more like a version that would be more acceptable. And there was this intense pressure to repress myself out of fear of disappointing my parents. And so my choice was either be what I am or experience the wrath of withheld love from my parents. And so it created this split in myself, where the authenticity of myself wasn't allowed, right? It was dangerous. It was unsafe for me to be authentic. It was unsafe for me to express the sincerity of my interest if I knew it was going to be disapproved of. And that sent me into a spiral of self-hatred. right? Because there's the authenticity of what I am, which seems to be the cause of me not getting love, right? Like, if only I wasn't myself, then I could get the love. And so that self needs to go away. You need to be this if you want to get the love. And at the same time, it taught me one of the most profound lessons, which was, if I want my parents' approval, the only way I can do that is by rejecting myself. If I want the world to approve of me, I have to first reject myself. That doesn't make much sense. Not only that, what's being accepted by my parents in the world is a version of myself that isn't myself. So am I really being accepted? No. It opened this doorway for me to see that the love that I craved, the acceptance that I craved, was something that only I could give myself. And the more I wanted it from the world or other people, the more I had to reject myself. And so that led me to releasing the world, releasing my parents, letting them see what they see, letting them like and not like whatever they liked and didn't like, and me staying true to what felt authentic and real in my own experience. And this lesson in itself is, of course, a lesson I had to repeat 1,000 times to really get the message. But that was ultimately the message, was that the pain that I was experiencing wasn't because the world rejected me. It was because I was rejecting me, right? I was resentful toward the world and my parents because I thought they were causing my pain by not accepting me. But that's not what it was. The pain was my own self-rejection. And then I was blaming my parents for it. And so in realizing that, I saw that, and this is something that is just so obvious now, but the world will never accept me. The world can't accept me because the world can't see me. My parents can't see me. They only see their idea of me, right? Filtered through their own nonsense and their own expectations. They don't really see me. How are they going to accept me? And so when I show up in the world without the desire of being seen or being accepted, I realize that I show up in the world for the sake of my own enjoyment. I show up in the world to stay in integrity to myself. And that way I don't have to abandon myself. And it's interesting because in doing that, I have a greater capacity to be present regardless of what somebody else is saying, because I'm not afraid of them rejecting me, because I don't want them to accept me. Right? Do you notice this? It's like when you want somebody else to accept you, you get nervous in holding space. Because it's like, oh no, what if they think this about me? What if they think that about me? Right? That's me wanting to be accepted. But if that's not a concern anymore, then I can just hold space and let it unfold however it unfolds. And so that's just one way of pointing to that fundamental pain that we stumble upon when we're young. And we have to travel a journey of decades to unravel it. It's still, even though I might be able to speak about it clearly, I still see the same lesson playing out, which is just a continual opportunity for me to honor the truth of things. Like when I do the work that I do, I'm constantly reminded that, oh, this isn't about being liked. Oh, this isn't about being approved of. This isn't about being seen. This is about me honoring the sincerity of what I am. And this is what the I am wants to do right now, is this kind of work. And so I let that happen. And it's so much easier to do that work when I'm not concerned about what people think about it. It's like, again, I'm just singing my song, and whether people enjoy it or not is up to them. I'm not sure if that speaks to what your question was, but that's what came out of my mouth.
The thing that connected for me with what you said, Tiger, is that thing of stop being concerned about what people perceive me like, or to be liked, or what people think. And I have found from my own journey that it's very, very, very much connected to purpose. Big word that we're using. But for me, purpose is to really dig into the understanding of this is what I am, not who I am. Who I am is, again, it's this personality bullshit that we invent. But what I am, and what I mean by that, I have landed into this planet. I was born to a certain family, to a certain country, to a certain condition. I decided certain decisions. I went through certain traumas. I did some successes. I did some failures. I fucked up here. I succeeded there. All that thing is a massive structure of ingredients that, the way I see it, it's my responsibility to spend time with that, to understand what that means, so that I can then offer something meaningful to the world. It comes back to what, Tiger, you said before, slowing down and allowing ourselves to spend time with that, because I feel that we don't do this enough. We're going and thinking, we're trying to find a solution. What's the next step? And to really find purpose is the same thing as what we spoke about, to allow the emotion, to allow the physical pain. It's to allow ourselves to sit down doing absolutely nothing until something strong bubbles up from within. And it will be very different to each one of us. But we need, and it's also, it's funny things that, you know, Tiger, you probably will laugh and I will laugh, and sound, you know, it's ridiculous, because it's so much effort for us to do nothing. The invitation to find our purpose is to literally do nothing, and something will bubble up out of that nothingness. But to do nothing, what do you mean? It's like immediately the mind takes over. Like, so do I need to write some? No, you don't write anything. What do I need to think? No, you don't need to think about anything. It's David Data, those of you who know, speaks about how, you know, if you sit down for 5 minutes, an hour, 5 hours, 7 hours, at some point, you'll need to go to take a poo. You will just know it. Your body will know it. It will happen naturally. You don't need to think. You don't need to plan. You don't need to really, something will make you walk up and do this, or to take food or whatever. It's the same thing for purpose. If we sit enough time in this silence, in this stopping mode, which is really challenging, something will bubble up. And I guess this is invitation for what, Tiger, you shared before, and to slow down, and not to try to find the solutions in the head, but to try to find them in something deeper than that, Tiger.
What I hear you extending is an invitation to let go of control, just for a little bit. And it's so interesting how scary that is, right? Because when you let go of control, you give yourself to the unknown. And now it's like, but I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's the point. To be okay with whatever happens, and not need it to be this, and not need it to be that, and not needing to know what's coming, but to just give yourself back to the spontaneity of your authentic nature and see what happens.
And it's about losing your mind. Now, when we say lose your mind, it's not like, oh shit, no. What will happen if we lose our mind for a few minutes or a few hours? We don't let that thing think and figure out things. And instead of losing the mind, we allow it to connect with the heart. I have this say that I always say, try to live my life by this: lead with your heart and let your head follow, instead of leading with the head, living a life of regret in your heart. So what if we lose the mind for a few minutes or hours and letting ourselves to connect truly with the heart, where there will be something more meaningful that will move us forward, and then let the mind come behind it and sort the logistics behind it. I think we live too much in the flip side when we're thinking about what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And it's like constant banging the head in the wall, and the heart is just it gets lost there. And then where the pain is non-productive pain. It's the not power of the pain. It's the residue, is the kind of the shit of the pain. And I don't think that didn't serve me, at least. Alex.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to another question that's been percolating, which is, you're talking about feeling our pain, as the way through, the way to forget the word that you used, but the wound is the womb, right? And so, sitting, doing nothing, fine, we can meditate, we can give ourselves that space. But I'm just curious about your specific method, if you like, for being with everything. And especially when there are pains that, we may not yet be fully consciously aware of. The stuff in us that we are unconsciously avoiding,
Yeah. Well, my method is a little bit untraditional with regards to I try to avoid it as long as possible until I realize there's no other option. And then in realizing there's no other option, it doesn't matter what the method is. Because when there's surrender, that's the real method. And whatever, practice or dance comes out of that's fine. But really at the heart of the matter is, are you ready? And it's important to acknowledge, if you're not ready. Like I've had many moments like that where it's like, I can't get into this right now. And that's fine. And it's not true that I can't get into it, but I think I can't get into it. So life says, okay, we'll keep doing your little dance until you see there's nowhere to go. And you'll realize you have to get into this. And so I go do my little dance and I try to avoid it. I try to distract myself. And then the pain just keeps come knocking. And it's like, okay, now it's time. And so, I play my own little game with trying to get away from it, trying to intellectualize it, trying to think my way out of it. And I do that until I can't do it anymore. But as it relates to some sort of, consistent practice or method, I don't do any of that. I find a lot of my invitations to see these things is really orchestrated through the work that I do. It's like, as I'm here talking to you guys, I'm really just talking to myself, like telling myself what I need to hear. And so and whether I'm doing this with people one-on-one or if I'm doing it in groups or at retreats, it's always just for myself. And so that's my invitation. And I think it's been really beautiful to see how that's happened, where my life of service has become my spiritual practice that helps me deal with my own shit. But my personal life outside of my teaching totally doesn't look like a spiritual life. Just very normal dude shit.
My 2 cents to offer today is a question that I think can really serve to dig into that, is ask myself daily, is what am I avoiding? It's a great question. What am I avoiding? Which email I don't want to send, which phone call I don't want to make, what task is like the thing that I'll push away? This is exactly where I need to jump in. And when I jump in, on the other side, there is freedom.
when I ask that question, what I almost immediately notice, especially if there's emotional disturbance, I find out immediately that I'm scared, right? Because I cannot be emotionally disturbed without being afraid. It's like there's no way around that. Fear is at the source of all emotional disturbance. And so often, if I'm somewhat chaotic in my day or my activity, it's like I'm trying to avoid the reality that I'm scared. Like I'm trying to conquer the fear before I acknowledge that I'm afraid. And so when I ask myself, what am I avoiding? It's like, oh shit, I'm actually scared right now. Okay, what am I scared of? And I dig into that and it starts showing me some pretty profound things. And again, as I investigate those fears, as with all fears, if you take them to the end, you'll realize that you don't really need to be afraid.
Tiger, can you share, because I really loved it when we spoke, the difference between fear and danger? I really love when you spoke about that. That's a great one.
Well, one thing that I'm continually inviting people to see is that in the most profound way, there's nothing to be afraid of in reality. Like the human being's experience of fear is to only fear your imagination. And the way to illustrate this is, let's just say that you're afraid of the dark. We can say, but I'm afraid of the reality of the dark. And so I ask you, is it the dark that you're afraid of, or your imagination when you're in the dark? Right? You're not afraid of anything in reality when the lights are out. You're afraid of what goes on in your mind. You're not afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow. You're afraid of what you imagine might happen tomorrow. You're not afraid of yesterday. You're afraid of what you imagine about yesterday. So there's literally nothing in reality that you fear. You're only fearing the mind's content. Now, as it relates to danger, yes, playfully, there's dangerous situations, but the beauty of our biological system, divorced from fear, is that when you're in dangerous situations, there's something in you that kicks in and brings your full attention to the present moment. It's like, oh shit, now it's time to be present, right? I need to deal with this. Now, if you mix fear in there, you start doing stupid shit. Like being afraid in dangerous situations is not a good combination. But being present in dangerous situations is a great combination, because now you can actually deal with what's happening. When you're afraid, you want to run away. When you're afraid, you want to overreact. When you're afraid, you're not seeing things clearly. And so whenever there's fear, it tells me that I'm not seeing reality, that I'm mistaking my imagination for reality. I'm thinking that what I'm thinking is real. And again, this is the great beauty of fear. And your emotional disturbance tells you that you're in fear. Whenever there's emotional disturbance, it tells me I'm not seeing clearly. And so whenever there's that tension in the body or that emotional disturbance, it's telling me I'm afraid and that I need to be still and question, what do I think is actually happening right now? And it's fascinating to see, because you'll see that you're lost in narratives about things that are impossible, about things that aren't happening at all. Is that what we talked about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this distinction.
And to see that transforms your relationship with fear. It's like, oh shit, that's amazing. I want to investigate that. And now you're open to be afraid. It's like I'm excited to watch myself be afraid and see how I'm not seeing clearly.
Which is so clear to me. It's beautiful. We need to start bringing things to a close. The time has passed very quickly. Mr. Neil, I feel like you have a question though, so the stage is yours.
Yeah, there's something going back to what you're saying about sitting still. I'm for the last few weeks, I've been in a place of up until now, I've called it boredom. I'm stuck. So I've got this feeling of stuckness because I'm not doing anything. And I'm starting to, because I'm trying to find my purpose. So I'm trying to, where is it? What's going on? It's a bit disjointed as it in here at the moment, but there's something there about sitting still long enough to have that bubble up without getting distracted by the fears of, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing this, what are people going to think about me sat in my ice tub, or just going for a walk, or just feeling that something should be done. And even now it's making me uncomfortable, thinking, okay, I'll be just going to sit in my back garden for the next 3 weeks and do nothing. But that might be what's needed. I don't know how my wife would buy into that. No, interesting concept. Yeah.
I want to say something about the attitude we bring to stillness, like with such an inquiry of figuring out my purpose. You see, just like I talked about earlier, where we can misunderstand the purpose of life and think it's about getting to the future, we can misunderstand the opportunity of being still and think that being still is about getting an outcome, right? Like, I'm going to do this still thing so that XYZ happens, which isn't really being still, right? There's an agenda there. The invitation of being still is surrendering everything, right? It's really letting go, which is, for me, connecting with an authenticity that can acknowledge I don't really know. For me, that's one of the most powerful states to be in, to acknowledge the reality that I don't know, rather than I should know, right? Because it doesn't matter. What's the reality? If you go in with an agenda of I should know, then you're just going to be beating yourself up the whole time because you're going to keep encountering the truth that you don't know. And so rather than trying to get something out of it, let's go into it and just embrace the truth of what is. Like, oh, wow, I really don't know. Now, can I be okay with not knowing, which is simply saying, can I be okay with the truth of things? Right? That's where you find stillness. Can I be okay with the truth of things? Not, I'm trying to use this moment to get something out of it. I'm here to meet the truth and let the truth be the truth. And as you said, your mind will try and keep you from that sort of vulnerability and truth by imagining worst case scenarios. Right? Like, if you don't figure this out, then you're going to be in the garden for 3 weeks and yada, yada, yada. Right? It'll imagine worst case scenarios, which says, no, I can't be still right now. There's shit I got to do. But then all that shit you got to do ends up going nowhere anyway. And you come right back to stillness, to I don't fucking know. And so for me, that invitation of meditation, of just being still, is constantly coming back to the stark reality of just how much I don't really know. And the more intimate I can get with that truth, then what I do know begins to become a little bit more clear. And then I can work with what I do know rather than being obsessed about what I don't know, which is just the ability to just take the next step. And as it relates to finding your purpose, in the most simple way, what is the purpose of the rain? To be the fucking rain. What's the purpose of a tree? To be the fucking tree. Right? In the thing being the thing fulfills its purpose. You being you fulfills the purpose. Now, in the social nonsense we live in, with our grandiose ideas of self-importance, we imagine some fantasy of purpose, right? That garners all the respect and approval from the world. But that's no different from the flower looking up at the tree and saying, oh man, I wish I could be a tree. And then the tree looks at the bird and says, oh man, I wish I could be the bird. And the bird looks at the flower and says, oh man, I wish I could be a flower. And all of those things simply just don't see what they are. And if they really saw what they are, they would see that they're enough as they are. And when they get that message, they can go back to just being themselves, and the purpose is fulfilled. And as you be yourself, you'll find that spontaneous movement of life, your most sincere nature flowing through you, doing whatever it does, and in some way it's going to add value to other people's lives. Whether it's 2 people or 2,000 people or 2 million people, doesn't fucking matter. They're just all imaginary numbers.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Relief. I have a sense of relief. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tiger. I'm really happy that we did that. I have a feeling it's not going to be the last one that we're doing together. Thank you, everybody, for coming here and for joining us and for sharing your questions. If anybody is interested to know more about what we do in On Being Men, which is a space like this where men, we meet together and we challenge each other to be ourselves. You know, we're doing this kind of work around different areas to, again, to gain more clarity, more confidence, and more courage to show up to this crazy world from a place of truth. We have the programs that we run, which is The Man You Want to Be. It's a 90-day program. The next one starts in February. We're going to have a full weekend, which is called the Core Quest, which is all about taking the time to step back and to figure out what your purpose is, which will happen in April in the UK. The programs are online, so I know people here are in different places in the program. In the 90-day program is online, so that's wherever you are, you can join in. I'll drop you an email after this. There are more events coming up. The next one is on the 6th of December with Pat DeViley, which we're going to discuss the idea of how to deal with life changes. And it will take the form that it will take. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I think I don't take it for granted that a group of men decides to come and do some deep work and to share and to spend time to figure out life on a deeper level. So real thank you. And again, Tiger, big love, my friend, and thank you very much.